Good evening. It is the 22nd of February 2024. This is the 45-day show, episode 19, and it is 8:30 p.m. UK time. This show's been a little bit in the making. Myself and my guest, DJ DSK, have met a few times and we've had a few conversations about doing a show. It's taken a little while, but we finally got there. We are here. He's an amazing scratch DJ. He's an amazing producer. He's an amazing record label owner. And I've met him a few times and always had a great conversation with him. And I thought we'd find out more. So without further ado, DJ DSK.
Yay, good evening.
How you doing? Thank you so much for coming on. Like I was saying, it's taken a little while, but we've got here. We've got here eventually.
Yeah, we've been saying for a long time, right? We would do it, but life gets in the way.
It does. Life gets in the way. You know, work's busy, DJ life, DJ family, all the rest of it. There's a lot going on. But with all my guests, when they first come on a show, I always like to find out about how and why they got into music. And usually it's from a young age. And it might be sort of parents, brothers, sisters, siblings, friends, whoever it was. But who first got you into sort of music? What sort of age? And can you remember some of the songs from that time?
I think it was from a really young age, but it would have just been like the top 40. Do you remember on the radio, was it every Sunday or something, they used to have the countdown, so it'd be like the top 40. And that was kind of the first introduction to music. And I used to record it every week, listen to all the songs, and you start to find genres you like more than others. Do you know what I mean? As you went through the charts. And so, yeah, that would have been the first introduction to music.
And so were you making sort of pause tapes like a lot of us? So you'd record a song and then obviously then redub it and sort of copy it onto another tape with a compilation of songs that you liked?
Yeah, and then I'd have that, real early on, I'd probably just record that top 40 and keep listening to it.
Yeah. And
through the week, till the next week.
Yeah, try and cut out all the talking in between
and
all that sort of stuff. Okay, cool. So that's you listening to the radio effectively. And so how old would you have been when that was going on?
God, I've got no idea. Yeah. I don't know. That's like the earliest memories. So I could imagine probably from 8 or 7 or whatever, or even, younger.
And what sort of setup did you have for recording the radio?
At first, it would have been like the dad's hi-fi.
The sort of like dual tape thing with a sort
of...
Yeah,
you know where you had the like separates, isn't it? So you'd have like the radio, the radio separate, the amp, and then the tape. You know what I mean? And it'd be like trying to get a tape off my dad or whatever, and then harassing him to play it in the car, I suppose, and stuff like that. But it's a long time ago.
Yeah. And can you remember some of the songs? You said you sort of started to find genres that you liked. Can you remember some of the early songs that sort of really grabbed your attention?
Not from the chart stuff, I suppose, but like I suppose it would have been like the synthy pop, like Duran Duran and I don't know, like Human League or stuff like that. The more kind of synthy pop.
Yeah, and that's very a sort of British sound as well, wasn't it, back then?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so from listening to the radio, recording tapes, how did that then become you starting to collect records?
Yeah, it would have been just going down the local, whatever, not Woolworths, I suppose, something like that, and just buying. When you eventually had some money, I'd buy like I think Duran Duran Planet Earth was probably the first record I bought.
Right, okay.
Maybe that was 7-inch. I couldn't get in it actually. Yeah, so.
And so 7-inch. Okay, so that's your first record you remember buying. And I think back then probably Our Price, that sort of, and Woolworths. You used to be able to sort of pick up records in Woolworths and Our Price, didn't you?
Yeah, but that came a bit later when we could go into the town, because I'm kind of from like a village. Do you know what I mean? Which is like you have to go around the water, so it's like a 10-mile car journey or a 20-minute boat journey into the city. So it would have just been at the local sweet shop that sold like magazines and stuff like that. They used to have a little 7-inch section, and you could also order in records as well.
That's amazing, isn't it? Because there's no newsagent I know now that sells 7-inch records. But yeah, I mean, how cool. So, okay, so you had a sort of limited amount that you could even access because you're buying them from this newsagents.
But that was an age thing, as soon as I got old enough that I could go into town, then I discovered like Our Price, and Virgin, HMV. So I would have been buying stuff from there, and then eventually, as we got later into the 80s, and that the like independent shops that we would have had, that came as I got into like hip hop and electro and all stuff like that.
So tell us about that, because obviously you're still quite into your hip hop,
Yeah.
if that's a bit of an understatement. But yeah, so tell us what attracted you to hip hop and some of the early artists you were listening to.
Um, I don't know. It just seemed like something cool. I think the real proper introduction for a lot of people in the UK was the electro compilations.
Yeah,
So someone at school would have had like Electro 4 or something like that, and then you'd be like, "Oh, what's that?" And then you'd get it and listen to it, and it was just totally different to anything you'd heard before, and it seemed like another world. A lot of the kids weren't into it, and it felt like you had your own special thing, and you were like, for some reason, you felt like you understood it, but no one else did. Do you know what I mean? So
uh, yeah. No, I get that. I think when I was sort of probably about 16, I was sort of into rave music and like early Prodigy and Moby and stuff like that. And a lot of the other kids were into grunge, because obviously Nirvana was pretty big at the time. I only got into Nirvana later. So yeah, I can see. I was like, yeah, I like this sort of dance music and this rave music, and they're all like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, it is something that you own yourself and that you feel is part of you, isn't it? And that's very important with music.
yeah, it was like this other world that I suppose sometimes you feel like you don't fit in where you are. Do you know what I mean? But it was like this music gave you a bit of an escape, and it was something that was special to you. But before I got into hip hop, the first music that I really felt something for was two tone. I got given
Right.
a copy of a Dance Craze album. I don't know if you know that. It's the live album with the specials, Madness, Selector, Bad
Yeah.
Manners, and it's such an incredible album. It really picks up the live energy of the two tone scene, and that just blew me away. And that really got me hooked in the music was the two tone thing first.
Yeah, amazing. We've got DJ Genie in saying hello.
Yo,
Uh,
Jeannie, how you
yeah.
doing?
Um, she's been doing all right, I think. I think she was talking about going on a trip, because she was playing on Raiders of the Lost Ark on Wednesday, so a brilliant set. We've also got Double P, my man as well.
Yep, hi,
Um,
Double P.
cool. So yeah, okay. So that's when you get electro and you're enjoying that, and obviously it's something that. How does that then sort of transpire into more record collecting and then potentially moving into DJing?
Well, I think uh, the first few records, as I said, was pop stuff. Then I I don't think I bought any of the two tone records, so I had the recording of the two tone stuff, and it was probably when I got the electros that I started trying to find out what the records were on the electros. Um,
Yeah.
and then I had a couple of friends that were a couple of years older, and they ordered from what's the shop? Was it Power Music or something like that? But the first records that I bought off them were 12 inches. Would have been something like Big Apple Productions 3. There was a Fatboy Slim mega mix that he did real early on called The Finest Ingredients.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That Yeah, so I was getting these 12 inches and trying to get stuff off the electros, I think. And a big explosion, which happened for a lot of us kids that were living out in the sticks, is if you could pick up the Mike Allen Capital Radio show. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I have heard of it. Yeah, yeah. So what? How could you pick it up? Because this might fit
It
in with
was
a story of mine. Did you have like some convoluted, long, big aerial?
yeah, it
Yeah.
was crazy. And then it was the difference between you knowing everything about electro and hip hop and knowing nothing. It was like once you got that station, you knew all the hottest records, you knew everything that was coming out of America, UK releases. But basically, I had a cheap ghetto blaster and I snapped the aerial off. It got a bit of
Right.
wire, um, wrapped that around the aerial, and it went all around my room in a big lasso.
That is bonkers, because I had, you were talking about that sort of stack system. So I had a Sony one of those which had a radio thing, and it had a really long area. And again, I would have that all around my room,
Yeah,
so that I could get Kiss FM in London. So from London to Eastbourne is like 60 miles away, and I could get it, and so I could hear like Colin Faver, Colin Dale,
yeah.
early stuff like that. So it's interesting that we got the same sort of
Yeah, I mean, we were in
way to get
Southampton,
music.
that's
Yeah.
70 miles away, and like you'd record it, right? And then it would suddenly phase in and out, and you'd get like static, and then suddenly
Yeah,
an
yeah.
Indian or a Mexican song or like classical music would suddenly bleed over, and you'd be like, no, no.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's amazing. But again, the lengths you went to hear good music and different music to everyone else.
Hmm. And it was crazy because, like, yeah, like I say, it was weird at school because I don't know if anyone else could get the Capital Radio Show for my year at school. I knew all the tracks. I think I was even dubbing tapes and selling them at school. So I was doing pause button tapes of all the good tracks, and then
Yeah.
probably selling them at school. No, me.
Well, again, it's spreading music, isn't it? But that's cool. I'm going to say hello to Gothic Princess as well. Welcome in.
Hello, Gothic Princess. How's it going?
Um, cool. Okay, so you're getting this music from the radio show. Are you then in an ability to then go and source it? Are you then buying these records?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remember the timelines, but my Callum would have been 85, 86. And I suppose around that time, I'd started buying a few imports, but we were getting a mail order. And obviously, at that age, I don't know how old I was, like 14 or something, 13. You don't have a lot of money, so you can't really afford them.
Yep.
But later on, towards the end of that, we started going into Southampton. You could buy stuff in the shops there. We had a record shop that Stuart Devlin owned, a really good shop. I've forgotten the name now. And then we started going up to London as well. So Groove Records was just incredible. And if anyone went around Soho, kind of like mid 80s to late 80s, it was just record shops, and it was some of the best times ever. Like, we'd save money, hide money in our socks because it got a bit dodgy up there as well. And we just go record shopping. We just live for it. But the funny thing is, you'd be four of you mates, right? So you'd get the train up to London, and you'd all be walking together, talking about what imports we're going to find. But as you started getting towards Groove Records, everyone would slowly start speeding up because you knew if you were the first one to the import section, you got all the good ones, right? But you didn't want to like look like an arsehole to your mates. So, you'd all be trying to speed up without the others knowing, yeah. And then once you got in the door, you would just run. And then if you got there last, you'd have to watch your mate going through and picking up all the good stuff. You'd be like, damn, if I'd only got in a few seconds earlier.
Oh, amazing, amazing. But it's part of the dig, isn't it? And part of going out digging with someone else is always more fun than digging on your own, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're talking about the records, and even the train journey homes is like getting your records out and reading all the credits, reading the producers, and talking about the records you've got. And yeah, it was all we did really.
Amazing. Um, so how did that then move into DJing? Did you buy decks? Did someone let you try out their decks? How did it work?
Yeah, I was always trying to scratch on my dad's hi-fi when he went out. So I would just, even when I was little, get up on the chair and just start scratching the records. Then I eventually had one of those, the old ones where the 45s drop down.
Yeah, yeah.
You used to like put a pile of them with the arm and they drop down. Then I had one of them, and I would just like try and scratch them just from watching stuff like Wild Style, the Grandmaster Flash part, and is it DST that cuts up Good Times at the end? So
Yeah.
I can remember when I got the 7-inch of Good Times, and it didn't have the break, so it didn't have the actual Good Times that everyone cuts up, but it still had a bit that sounded like it. But just spending probably an hour just scratching that Good Times sample and trying to copy DST from Wild Style.
Okay. And you would have been watching that on VHS. Did you have a copy on VHS and were you just watching it, or did you see it somewhere and then you're just trying to copy what you've seen?
No, we were too young, so I think it got played on Channel 4 or a station, yeah, and we would dub it and just keep watching it over and
Yeah.
over.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So when do you end up getting your first set of decks?
Yeah, what for year? I mean, this depends, because if you're talking about like what I started trying to scratch on was one that you meant to just listen to records on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I
You're not
don't know
into
if you
scratch.
count that, or would you count it as when I got stuff that I could actually start DJing on?
Then the latter.
to start DJing, I don't know. I bought like I started speaking to my dad saying that I wanted to DJ, and we went down St Mary Street. They had a lot of second-hand shops, and I just bought two turntables. They had no pitch, so I got two. They would have been
Right.
like from separates. You know what I mean? The deck from the top of a separate hi-fi system.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
So I bought two of those, really cheap. And then my dad got me the realistic mixer that had 4-up faders, so that had
Yep.
no
Yep.
crossfader or nothing. And yeah, just try to teach myself DJing on that. Really,
Amazing. Good evening, Sideshow Mall as well, out in Germany.
Sideshow Mall, what's happening?
So these decks obviously are probably belt drive at that stage.
Yeah, and I had a
No
book.
no pitch.
No, I had a book, a BPM book, and I used to wear a stopwatch, and I would count the BPM of all my records, and I had them in a like a diary, alphabetical, and I used to look them up, choose records that were roughly the same BPM, and then got to learn to use my finger as the pitch. Do you know what I mean? You either held the record to slow it down slightly, or you wound it round at the spindle a bit to speed it up, and I'd use my book to get records that were 1 or 2 BPM within each other.
Amazing.
It's
Amazing.
mad, isn't it?
Have you still got that book? Have you still got it?
No. And the funny thing was, I didn't know how to count BPMs properly, so they were all half of what they're meant to be. I didn't know
Right.
that you were meant to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I was just using a snare, so I'd go like 1, 2. So I was counting everything half of what it was meant to be anyway. But, you know what I mean? I just didn't know. I was just trying to do it
Amazing.
myself.
Amazing, amazing. But obviously, this was a time before the internet as we know it, with like YouTube tutorials and people DJing all the time. You know, you had to sort of work it out yourself, I guess, back then.
Yeah, and the other thing was like same with electro. It was the thing of I don't know, like with hip hop, it was weird. You heard it, and you just thought, I can do that. I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter, you know. And there wasn't rules, there wasn't schools or anything. You just thought, no, I just felt like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And it was the same. Like I started b-boying for a while as well, and same with that. You know, you saw people doing moves, and then you just went home and you just kept doing it until you got something like what they were doing.
Yeah. And it's amazing to get to from that to where you are now, really. But it's great that it started in that way. So you've got your two separate decks. You've got your realistic up forward fader. Are you sort of scratching and then using that to sort of chop as well? Is that how you're doing it without a crossfader?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing little mixes, and I started selling like mix CDs at school, but I was really addicted to scratching. So I think trying to scratch on the up and down, and then they had like these rocker switches, right? So you had like phono and line,
Yeah.
and you had two outputs on the back, so you could actually transform using a switch, but it wasn't like a switch; it was like a rocker, like on a plug.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I'd have my two fingers on me going like that, trying to transform and stuff. But I picked up some scratches I could do on that as well. It's quite funny, really.
But again, you started somewhere and you adapted to what you had. You know, if you had something different, you would have learned in a different way. So, do you then end up getting some gigs? You know, you're obviously selling mixed CDs to your friends. You know, how did it sort of work in
Yeah,
terms of
I
getting gigs?
tried. Yeah, we were doing a few. We were doing like eventually when we had decent records, I would have got next probably a slightly better mixer. But yeah, we started trying to do some house parties. Later on, a few bars and clubs. But yeah, I can remember the same thing. A girl at school going, I got a birthday party. Nick DJ's getting a DJ. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I had absolutely no idea how to set up amps and speakers. And they hired a sound system. And same thing, I just, you know, blagged it, took in my two crap turntables and that. And as soon as we switch it on, it was just feeding out and everyone's running out holding their ears. And then I'm like really stressed out and I'm getting a knife out with the cables. But same thing, it's like worked it out
Yeah.
and managed to do that party. And obviously after a couple, I started to learn what to do because I would rig some amps and stuff as well and kind of I'd take stuff to bits. And like the first amp I had, I think I took an old record player apart and just got the amplifier out of that and was using that plugged in the speakers. Do you know what I mean? Just
Amazing.
so so yeah, the first gigs were like really crazy ones like that, where we were just doing. Then we did a few house parties, and then later would have been a few bars.
And it's all progressing, isn't it? Like you say, at each stage of it, you're sort of learning what works and what doesn't work, how to work things out, how to make a party. Um, okay. There's at some point, I assume you upgrade from your sort of two turntables and mixer.
Yeah, I had like car washing and paper rounds and all that, and then saved up and got Technics. So I can remember the first day when my first Technics came. I could only buy one, obviously, at first, and it came before I went to school. And I had a big row with my mum because she made me go to school that day. And I was
Right.
like, "Mate, you don't understand. I've just got my Technics. I'm never going to school again. Like, that's it. Do you know what I mean?" And then I opened it, and we had a big row, and she forced me to go to school. I've never forgiven her. So I had to go to school, wait the whole day to get home to switch my Technics on.
Ah, I bet you were ready to rush out of that school as soon as that finished.
Yeah, and it was like a big moment, and then eventually I saved up. I can't remember the time, but yeah, got the second one, and
Yeah. And then a mixer, and then it sort of starts to go from there, doesn't it? I suppose once you've got the gear.
yeah. So then obviously once you got your Technics, and then I had for a while that realistic mixer with the crossfader.
Okay.
That was like that was a good one, and then what did I get after that? I think I had was it Phonic 60 or something, and it had like the kill switches at the top that you could transform on nicely as well. I remember having that mixer for a while as well.
Yeah. And you're still enjoying the scratching and hip hop at this stage as well?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we were, yeah, with me and my mates, we were really into it. Yeah, the graffiti, the breaking still, and DJing. Yeah,
And are you then still putting on parties by this stage?
not. I wouldn't say so much putting them on, but we were, yeah, doing house parties, doing some bars and small clubs, trying to get sets here and there, like speaking to local DJs that were a bit older and a bit set up, and then trying to get
Yeah.
them to give you the odd set. Um, I had one guy that was doing like a weekly in a wine bar, Willie's Wine Bar. That was a really nice night. It was going for a while, and I used to do that with him every other week or something like that. Um, yeah, classic. I can't remember the names of
Nice.
places, but yeah, around Southampton, most of these were.
Yeah, yeah, which is obviously where you're still sort of based and where we've met a couple of times at some events. Okay, so the next stage sort of is the production, isn't it? When do you get into production, and what were you sort of using at the beginning to sort of produce?
Um, I don't know. It was my mate at school, and he had he was really into keyboards, right? Gareth, he was a guy who was a really good keyboard player, and he had like this little Casio and it had a sampler on it, and it was the first sampler like I'd ever seen or anyone. And once I found out, I was like, "Come and stay around my house." And then we just like looped breaks, and it was like it was at the time where hip hop was coming out with breaks, but no one was really making so much music with it, and we were like looping like Funky Drummer and Lynn Collins Pink and putting them over each other, and speeding it up and stuff. We were just like, "Oh my god, this is incredible." Do you know what I mean? And like, I didn't really put anything out. If we'd have been a bit more forward thinking, I should have got like Gareth to be doing keys and keyboard, and we should have tried to produce them. But that was the first time we were like starting to realise what gear was out there. So we used a sampler. Do you know what I mean? And then Gareth had keyboards. So when I started to get a bit of money, I started buying a few keyboards, and I just basically copied him because he was really up on his gear. So I bought a Lacey's SR16 drum machine. It's like a little one. I
Yeah.
think I bought that because it had a 808 cowbell in the kit, and it had an 808 kick and snare. And I think I just bought it for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was obsessed with the 808 for a while as well. Obviously, couldn't afford one or didn't know where to get one. So I bought this SR16 drum machine just so I could make electro. Because before hip hop kind of slowed down and got to the boom bappy stuff, we were mad into electro funk. So we were trying to make that at first as electro music.
And so, what are you're just using this Casio keyboard, or are you using other samplers as well?
No, that was the first thing. So
Okay.
my mate at school had that, and we started messing around, and he stayed over. And then he'd already started to make his own music, but he was into like synth music and keyboard music. So he was doing his own thing, but I would see what he was doing, and I started buying stuff, trying to make electro and hip hop music. So I got the drum machine, like I said. And then eventually I got an Atari ST because you could get Cubase on
Yeah.
that to be the sequencer. Um,
Amazing. And obviously, that is a long time ago, and um, production is very different now to how it was then. Was it
yeah,
quite difficult to sort of learn back then?
yeah, it was mad because like there was no internet, there was nothing. So you would read the manual, and your lessons would be listening to music. So I would listen to like when I'm listening to Mike Allen's Capital Radio or any of the radio shows, any of the 12 inches, I would be dissecting what was on the record. And that was teaching me how to do it. Does that make
Amazing.
sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then because when you're talking about sort of Cubase on the ST, how basic was it, and how could you get samples into it?
it it didn't have any sampling in it. It was just a MIDI sequencer. So all it
Okay.
did was I actually bought an Akai. The worst mistake was I bought an Akai 2800 because it had just come out, and I should have got the 900 or the 950 for the sound, which I could have got cheaper. But I
Right.
assumed the Akai 2800 was going to be better. But anyway, I bought that and I used that as a sampler. And
Okay.
then I had the SR16 drum machine, and I had I had like this synth as well. So they were all plugged in MIDI to
Yeah.
Atari ST, which was
Yeah.
running Cubase. Yeah.
Okay. And that was sequencing all the external hardware effectively.
Yeah. So it was sequencing the samples from the Akai, and then I'd get like drum machines to go over the samples, and then I'd have the synth sounds as well.
Amazing. Yeah, a very different world of production when you sort of compare that to something like Ableton or Cubase even
Yeah. I
now.
mean,
Really, it's
it's
amazing
nuts.
how much things have moved on. So you're doing your own productions. Does there come a stage where you put them out in some form?
No, like making tapes and stuff really. So I obviously I left England about 97. So I was like working hard planning to get stuff out. So it I kind of just wanted to start traveling and gave up on trying to do the music as I was, because music and trying to get a release out was what I was aiming for. And then I was trying to practice to enter the DMCs.
Right.
And I went. I my job finished or whatever. Like I did my apprenticeship, and I went to live in France for a while, and then I just really got the bug of like traveling and living outside of the UK.
Yep.
And I came back and just pretty much sold everything up, and then left the UK. So I didn't really get to that stage, but the like format started just after me. So DJ format lived not far away. So we used to kind of now and then we'd meet up and play each other stuff. Do you know what I mean? And then I saw Matt, heard him start getting good, and it was kind of good because I'd be like, right, I got to get better. But then yeah, I left the UK at a stage, and Matt hadn't
Right.
blown up or anything then either. So
Yeah. So you sell off pretty much all your gear and all your music at that stage when you moved away.
no, I never sold my records. Don't be stupid.
I'm just checking, just checking. So it's just the gear, but the records you've had and you've kept. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
S-
My mum and dad loved me for that
yeah,
because I ended up going away for 20 years. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah. Um, Never sell your records. Sideshow says, never sell them. Okay, so there's obviously a bit of a break then in the music. When do you then sort of take it back up again?
well, I never really stopped, to be honest. I moved out to Hong Kong and I ended up working there, and so I started doing the odd bit of DJing there. And at that point, like Hong Kong, there were loads of British people and there were loads of Chinese kids that I got to meet that were all wanting to DJ, do parties. And we're talking like 97. Everyone was just DJing everywhere, and
Yeah,
I just carried it on. I was working and traveling, but like Hong Kong, I DJ'd and I met up with DJ Tommy was the DMC guy, but then I met up with DJ B, Soul B, and I just go in there and we'd practice DMC sets all the time. And that's a funny story, isn't it? Yeah, I was out in Hong Kong, so I was still buying records in Hong Kong, and then B, I had that Return of the DJ thing, the compilation, right? So when I was in Hong Kong, the second one come out, and Soul
Right.
B had it, and he showed it to me, and like I remember Format had a track on it, didn't he?
Yep.
And I saw it, and I was like, no way! I was like, Matt's got a record, that bastard, right? And then that made me think, right, I'm not giving up. If Matt can do it, I can do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's quite funny because even though I was
Amazing.
traveling, yeah, when I saw that, I was like, no, I've got to get a record out. Like Matt's done it, I'm going to do it. So
Amazing.
I still try to keep it going. But I backpacked for a while, and when I backpacked, I had like 3 12-inch records in my backpack, like everywhere I went. And they were like scratch records. So if I ever got anywhere that had turntables, I could like pull them out.
Amazing. Amazing. Can you remember which ones they were? Were they
Yeah, one of them was the Scratch Pickles. What was it? Their first battle break. It was called like with the orange label. It had like it had three beats on the back, and the A side was like 12 minutes where they cut up like Word of Mouth, King Cut, and all of them on it. It was the Cuba and Mixmaster Mike and that one of the first records that they brought out, the Scratch records.
Amazing. So you would have that ready. So if you went somewhere and there was turntables, you'd be able to put that on and show off your skills.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And which happened. This is the other crazy. This is why I never stopped. Was okay. So I lived in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is it's just like a Western city, really. It's like East and West mixed together. But I was I lived in Cambodia for a bit, Thailand for a while, and I was just really lucky that when I hit Thailand and Cambodia and everywhere, kind of hip hop was just starting to blow up there.
Yeah.
And everyone was wanting to start scratching and entering DJing competitions. And I just got really lucky. I would find out there was a DJ school somewhere or people practicing, and I just turn up with a record and then go on, and then I would find work teaching people DJing. You know what I mean? And like I had no work for a while. I was just backpacking around, walking in the bars and start scratching, and I'd end up finding jobs teaching people DJing and stuff. So,
That's
and I
amazing.
saw, yeah, and I saw hip hop blow up, around Thailand, Cambodia, and now Vietnam and everything. And the energy was so good. It was like the UK scene had already grown for quite a while, so it was quite established. But
Yeah.
seeing that energy and seeing in the kids in Asia what I felt, when I was saying I was trying to learn everything myself and trying to work it all out,
Yeah.
and I just saw that energy and that in the Asian kids, and it was really nice to witness and be a part of some of it as well.
And I guess back then, like you say, it was '97. There was DJs everywhere, and probably decks in probably most
What?
sort of venues back then.
Yeah, there were, and like obviously, like Bangkok is a major city, so you'd have turntables there, and you'd have people that could DJ well. But I mean, Cambodia had when I first went there, there was like one set of turntables in the whole country or something.
Right. Amazing. That's just
Yeah,
insane.
it was because I never expected to see a hip hop scene there or people in the hip hop. But obviously, a lot of the Cambodian guys are influenced from France. A lot of them grew up in France or went out in the war to France and came back.
Yeah.
And I ended up hanging out with a guy that wrote for Lonely Planet, doing some motorbike trips around Cambodia. And when we were talking, he's like, "Oh, you're in a DJ, and why don't you pop down the bar? There's this French guy with turntables in there." And I was like, "What, in Cambodia? I can't believe it." So I turned up, asked him to go on, started doing a few scratches, and he'd be like, "Right, don't leave, stay here." And he got on the phone, and then the next thing, 20 minutes later, Cambodian kids all on motorbikes showed up, all running, and he's like, right, he goes, "Now scratch," showed them. Like, started scratching, and I met a guy like Illis, DJ Illis from Cambodia. Big shout out to him. He became a really good friend, and he was a guy that grew up in Paris and went back to Cambodia, and he was like mad in hip hop. So I ended up living with him for a while, and he had like a hip hop collection of like Lord Finesse, all the US stuff.
Wow.
And I ended up living in Cambodia, just practicing scratching every day. And this is the really mad thing. I learned how to produce music in Cambodia because they had bootleg software market. And then by then, stuff like Cakewalk and Acid that you could do the mixes on and everything had come out. So I just went to the market, bought all the pirated software, and just set. I lived with Illist. He had a computer and turntables, and I just sat around there every day practicing production
Amazing.
and stuff. So I probably learned in Cambodia, yeah, how to produce really.
Amazing. What an amazing story and an amazing start, because that then links into something that you then release later, which is probably one of my favorite 45s, which is Cambodia.
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up living in China mainly for, like I say, almost 20 years. But where I started in Thailand and Cambodia, I have a big love for Thailand and Cambodia. I love the places, love the people, got really good friends there. So I would always pop back, and I became a professional DJ in Asia. So every weekend I was flying DJing eventually. So I would DJ in Bangkok, and then Illist opened a club. This guy I was living with eventually opened clubs and started working with clubs. Big shout out to Eddie as well. They opened a club called Pontoon. So I would go down there and DJ and just hang out. And then I'd get to meet a lot of people like musicians that were really into music and living in Cambodia. And that's where I got to meet the bands from the 7 inch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one of my favorite releases. You know, I love that record, and I think I had a test press, and I remember playing it at one of the Southampton gigs that we did with Soul 45, and it just sounded amazing on that system.
All right.
Just a
Yeah,
really,
glad to
really
hear
well
that.
pressed record. Okay, so you're DJing all over the place. You're sort of starting to produce. When does the sort of record label sort of come into it, and you sort of putting out music yourself, or under the sort of DNA edits?
Yeah, the record label was. I was still in China at this point, so I was doing a lot of production in China. I had a studio in China in my house, so I was producing. So a lot of tracks that ended up getting released, I made when I was in China. But basically, I was producing non-stop in China, and never released anything on vinyl or really got anything out. I was releasing CDs,
Okay.
um, and I was giving them out at gigs in China. I had a few sponsors and stuff, so I ended up with all these tracks and stuff. I came back on a trip. Like, big shout out to Slamo in Wales. I was DJing a lot of b-boy events, so I got quite big on the doing all the main events like Freestyle Session, Battle of the Year, the Red Bull events. Like, I was flying around doing all of these, and Slamo heard a track that I made, and he brought me back. This is mad. He brought me back to Wales to DJ for a b-boy event in Wales, and
Okay.
I did that. It went really well. We did another one, and MC Mystro ended up being the MC host for the event.
Nice.
So I remember when I approached Mystro, right? He's at the bar, and I was like thinking, oh, well, what, I wonder if he's cool.
Yeah.
So I approached him to have a chat, and I was like, all right, mate, I was a DJ tonight. And he's like, really nice to meet you. Do you want a pint? And he bought me a pint. And I was like, oh, mate, this guy is like really sound,
Awesome.
eh? So
Yeah.
anyway, me and Maestro just got chatting and hit it off. And the sponsor that did the Wales event, he loved my mix CD. I had a B-boy mix CD out, and he sponsored. He's like, look, can you come up with any ideas? I'd like to sponsor something that you do, like a mix
Yeah.
CD or a track or something like that. So I was with Maestro at the event, and I said, look, would you put some money in for me and Maestro to make a track? And he's like, yeah, cool. Their company was called Soul Heaven. So I thought of an idea of remaking I Know You Got Soul
Yeah.
and making it I Know You Got Soul as in the soul of trainers. And I mentioned it to Maestro. I said, what do you think of the idea? And he's like, mate, I love it. He goes, just leave it with me. And I don't know if you've heard that track, but Maestro killed it. Like,
Yeah. It's like one of my favorite. Before I even sort of ever met you or anything, I've had that 45 for a long time, and there is a brilliant video for it as well, isn't there? The
Yeah.
story is that the woman's basically hooking up with all these guys so that she nicks their trainers, doesn't she?
Yeah, they did an amazing video. Like
Yeah,
Dale from Soul Heaven did such a good job. He obviously I went back to China, right? So I would still be in China and just doing everything from email. And they don't want me in the, what would I do in the video anyway? Do you know what I mean? Like, so they
yeah,
got my Mystro down. My hand is in the video, so they got a picture of my hand going like
yeah.
that. But yeah, they did a really good job. They got Mystro down and they got a really nice model down to make the video. And I was really proud of the video. They did a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But I mean, that must have been amazing. Was that the first release that you'd had on vinyl?
No,
Oh,
but
what came first?
okay, I'll go back to how that got released because that's the start of the 45 thing. But
Okay,
what's the first thing? I don't know. It's probably I was in a group called the Metric Brothers, right?
right.
And if anyone knows their electro music, there's a group called the Imperial Brothers, right? And they made like a few banging tunes. So we took the idea of Imperial Brothers and made it the Metric Brothers. And me and the mate, he's called Skunkenstein. We made a few kind of mashup cut and paste records, and we didn't really think anything of it. I think we were on a website called Electro Empire, and everyone like loved the tracks, and we didn't think anything else of it. And then Junk heard the tracks. Junk from Second to None. I don't know if you know him. It's B-boy crew that he also had a record label. He used to release B B-boy breaks and stuff and all his own mixes, but he loved the track and he put it out on a 12-inch. So that's probably
Amazing,
the first thing we
amazing.
did.
And I assume you've still got a copy of that. I'm not expecting you to pull it out. I assume you've got a copy of that somewhere.
Yeah, but this is the other mad thing is like I was still traveling around the world. So I was living in China. I came back, did the cuts on the record and tried to master it. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. I like I was like, oh, I meant to put a compressor on the master bus, put a limiter on, and then I was just like trying to read
Right.
books, actually learn what I was doing, and it got put out on a 12-inch. But yeah, so I did that. Went back to China. The record come out. I didn't even have a copy for about 6 years. And
Right.
then I met Junk at a b-boy event, and I kind of know him a bit because we were always bumping into each other at events here and there. And I'm like, can you sort me out a copy of my own record?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's yeah, but like you say, if you're the other side of the world, it's not quite as easy, is it?
Yeah, it wasn't like I'm not trying
Certainly
to
back
say
then.
Junk did us a favor putting it out. It wasn't like I'm
Yeah,
trying to say, he did us bad or anything. He was sound, but
yeah,
it's just funny that I didn't get one
yeah.
till years later.
So tell us about the release and how it came up to the one with Maestro.
Yeah, so basically, again, we had the video, and then Dale from Soul Heaven, he was like, "This, that went really well. Have you got any other ideas that you want to do?" I thought of an idea which was to remix the track, and then I said, "Can you put in some prizes for like sneakers or something?" I think the winner ended up getting 10 pairs of sneakers. It was an amazing prize,
Wow.
and I gave the stems out for the track, and it was amazing. We had like 180 entries or something, so
Yeah,
it was really hard to choose. So we had a few judges. There was me, Mystro, I think Bunty from Scotland was a judge as well. And we got down to like the last four or something, and it was really difficult. But anyway, DJ Suspect was in, from France, Leo.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really nice guy, amazing DJ. He was in the top four, and they did an amazing one. They didn't win, but they came like second or third or something. Um,
Amazing.
and anyway, so that competition finished. Didn't think nothing of it, and then one day randomly, I got an email, and it was Leo, DJ Suspect. He said, "Do you want to can we put our track out on 45, the remix of your track?" So I was like, "Yeah, mate, that's cool. Just put it out. If you can obviously mention Mystro and put my name on it, that would be good. But yeah, just put it out. We're really happy." And then he's cool. And then he got back and he's like, "Well, actually, do you want to put your version on the other side?" I was like, "Yeah, mate, like go for it." Really happy. And then it was Kev from Dink that obviously put it out. So then I got introduced to Kev from Dink from that. So yeah, big up to Suspect. He introduced me to Kev, and that came out, and that was the start of it. So that release went out and did well. And then Kev was like, "Look, what other stuff have you got?" And I had like a catalog of stuff in China. You know what I mean? I had like loads of stuff on my hard drive. So
Amazing. And obviously at that time, well, the 45s culture wasn't as big as it probably is now. Was it just sort of starting off? Do you think the sort of
yeah, well,
re-interest in
I mean,
45s?
I'll be totally honest here. Is I was buying 45s for breaks. So I started buying 45s back when I was really young, and then I was getting the odd break to sample. Then if we couldn't get something on 12-inch, we get it on 45. But when at that time, when this got released, I didn't understand the 7-inch craze. I was kind of like, mate, it's ridiculous. Why is everyone rebuying stuff that they've got on 12-inch? And I've got all the classic hip hop on 12-inch, and I'm like, I'm not rebuying it. I was like, this is stupid. And then I was talking to Mark Hype, like Mark Hype's a good friend, and then he's like, "No, mate, I'm totally addicted. It's really addictive, and it's the best thing." And I was like, "No, it's stupid," and all this. Anyway, Kev gave me some copies of my record and kind of back catalogue and sorted me out a lot of records. And I did a gig with him, and then I was just like, "Mate, this is amazing! Like, I've got one record bag. I don't have to look through an album or nothing. They're all bangers. I know what I'm playing." And I got the fun of playing vinyl again because I'd been doing digital for years. Like I was in China where I was mainly DJing, and around Asia, I was using Serato and Tractor. So when I started doing a 7-inch, I just got the love for vinyl back. And
Yeah.
after one gig, I just totally got it. And,
Yeah.
and that was it. And then no, it's addicted, isn't it? So now.
It's amazing. It is though, isn't it? It's really weird, isn't it? That you just suddenly realise how much of a fun format it is to play with, and like you say, it's just one track per that, um, and it's still more fun than digital. I think you can DJ completely differently in a digital way, but it is just really good fun. We're going to pause the timeline for a minute because obviously you mentioned Mark Hype. I couldn't quite get out there, and in the end I was quite ill. But there was almost a possibility of both of us being in Germany for Mark Hype's 50th. Now I didn't make it, but you did. So tell us a little bit about that trip and what that was like being over there.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, so Mark Hype and Jim Dunloop, they they ended up coming out to China. I actually met them in China, and I worked with a guy called Seb Rocksky, if any of you know him. He's an old b-boy graph writer from Berlin, and he organized all these events in China, and we hooked up, and I was kind of like arranging a lot of stuff with him, and Mark and Jim came out, and we ended up getting on really well, and we did a lot of tours and events, became really good friends. So anyway, I saw him. I hadn't seen him for a few years, and my daughter and my missus went back to China to see their family. And I had a week where I could kind of go somewhere. And I was thinking, maybe I'll go and see Marlon in Cuba. Maybe I'll go here. Maybe I'll go there. And all of a sudden, I looked at the screen and Mark Hype's 50th flyer came on the screen. And I was like, that's a sign. It's like, I've got to go. So I just bought a ticket. Yeah, I told Mark I'm coming. I was like, look, I had to come once I knew it was your 50th. It was such a great trip. Like so many DJs out there. I got to meet like Genie, Hydro, Gosei, Shivare, all these guys that I've seen online. Really cool people.
Yeah.
And dig in, mate. Mark hooked us up with this spot. Like Genie, if you're still there, you can write about this. Yeah, it was like a cave, right? Full of 7 inches. I don't know if anyone saw the videos, but
Yeah, I saw a video. Yeah.
oh, mate, we spent like 2 days, and I can't remember the German DJ's name that owned a record shop there, gave us permission to go down and dig, and he was so cool and gave us such good prices. Very generous. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but that was incredible. And then the actual event was really nice. Jay Rudder Damager was there. All the top German DJs were there.
Yeah.
Mark put on a beautiful. They had a chef. Is it Cutmandu? That's a chef and a DJ, and he put on a meal for all the DJs before.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Crazy
they
night.
they streamed it. I couldn't get there, but we saw, and it was really weird because I didn't even realize they were going to stream it. And I think I was awake at like 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and then I looked at my phone. And I was like, oh, Dusty Donuts, Mark Hype's 50th ball. So I like clicked into that. So I saw Jeru and caught some of them playing. But yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Uh,
I mean, I just totally enjoyed myself. I got really drunk, and I think I grabbed the mic, which was probably a mistake at a couple of bits. There was a back room and a front room, and
okay.
oh, it was just awesome. Yeah, met so many people online that I hadn't met before. And Berlin, if anyone hasn't been there, go. It's such a great city, and
Yeah.
people are super cool. And Mark is like one of my favorite DJs. I really look up to him, and really, really nice guy as well. So
Okay. Yeah, and obviously you've explained that he'd sort of told you about 45s and you hadn't been interested. You do the gig with the 45s and you suddenly get addicted to it.
yeah,
So how did it
and
sort of go
I've
from
been
there?
I've been broke ever since.
Well, that is the problem, isn't it? Because probably back then they weren't as expensive as they are now.
No,
Um,
no, yeah.
now obviously from being a record label owner and getting pressings, I assume you've noticed that the cost of getting records produced and pressed now has gone up substantially over the last few years.
Yeah. In the UK, we're also facing problems with Brexit as well. We've lost a lot of customers from that. Yeah, I think it's a real shame because when at that time things you could still get stuff for £5, which I think
Yeah,
is a really great price, and people were willing to buy stuff a bit out of the ordinary. Do you know what I mean? You didn't just have to buy a club banger. You'd be like, oh, I really like that song. Maybe I want to support the artist, and I could play it at a chill out set. Where yeah, now the prices have got so high for the label owners and for people buying it that I think you're only going to buy maybe bangers that you're going to play in a bar. If you're a paid DJ, and I think it's kind of done a bit of harm to the 45 scene in a way, but it is what it is, right?
and how has that affected your sort of output in terms of putting stuff out on the label? Does that affect what you're putting out now because you know that people are only going to perhaps buy bangers?
Yeah. Yeah, like the reggae releases I did, I had big plans to do a series of reggae releases from around the world. I mean,
I mean, I
to
love
be
those two releases; they're amazing. They're like
yeah,
two of my
and
favourite.
someone put out the Bangra edit
Yeah,
as well. But yeah, I had a lot of plans. Like I kind of like to put out stuff that's different, and that was the route I wanted to go down, was like more original music and kind of a bit out there. But it's very difficult now for me to take the risk. I mean, we also did a Chinese reggae one,
yeah,
Pooh Man.
yeah, yeah,
That that was the first one I kind of took a risk on a bit, and I got a bit worried before I put it out because obviously I put quite a bit of money into that, and that did really well. Like that now is going, it goes for quite a bit of money and it's sold out, and now the band maybe want to repress it, but I was really surprised how well that did. But yeah, like the Cambodia one, it did all right. I probably just made my money back, but I know it's just something that I wanted to do, and things like that. All I want to do is break even. That's all I'm aiming for. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I will still do stuff like that, but it is a bigger risk for me now. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you say, it's not just the cost of putting it out; it's knowing that you're going to sell enough records, isn't it? And if people aren't buying as much or as broadly as they were before, it's a definite change. Um,
I mean,
okay.
we've got the problem now with Brexit is a lot of people now are going to buy from shops in Europe, right? Because they don't want to pay
Yeah.
the imports. So that means for us to get the records into Europe, we've got to use a distributor. And it's just like, I mean, it's great having distribution because they help you out. But obviously, the money you make selling to distributors is a lot lower than if I could sell direct. And I've always tried
Yeah.
to keep my prices really low. I mean, my prices haven't gone up for like, you know, 8 years or something that I've been selling them. But yeah, it's a lot harder. And I feel like for me, I do have a day job as well, but I really feel for people that are trying to make a living off of running labels now after Brexit from the UK.
Yeah, and obviously that's the sort of the physical format. How's it gone in terms of digital? Or do you not? Are you not interested in sort of
Yeah, I
releasing
don't,
digital?
mate. I don't even take notice of the digital stuff. I sell a few, but it's minute, and
Yeah,
I don't even worry about it. I don't even check what I'm getting. It's so minute.
yeah.
Um,
I guess
I
that's the
put them.
problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously when you buy a record from me, you get it off Bandcamp. You would get the digital as well, and people do buy stuff, but I could never afford like the mixing, the studio time, and like like the a lot of the original tracks that I've put out. I've paid for the proper studio mixing. I'll have to give a big shout out to Eat Prom, the guy in Poland. Like amazing, does a really good job on mixing my records and
Yeah,
really
they
good
sound.
prices in a studio. Yeah, and he is one of the best scratch DJs you'll ever hear. But anyway, putting in that cost is like trying to get that back. If you're mixing tracks properly and mastering them, it's quite hard to get that money back.
Yeah, and I think we sort of had this conversation before when you said, yes, it's you want to just break even, but it's also in an extent of getting the music out there, isn't there? And that's been an important part of your label, isn't it? Getting the music to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I think like one of the best things of having a label and getting sevens out is just when you're on Instagram or you go to a party, and someone's playing your track, it just kind of makes it worth it.
Yeah,
When I've sold records, it's incredible. I see them go to Russia, Japan, Mexico, every country. You know what I mean? Thailand, New Zealand, Poland, and it's amazing. When I see that, and you actually feel like, wow, this music just really is getting out all around the world. That makes it all worth it, really.
yeah, definitely. And have you got plans for some more releases coming up soon, or is there a pause at the moment?
No, I mean, I'm trying to think. I've got like in a minute I'll go through it because I don't even I forget what I've put out. So when I knew I was doing this, I actually went through and have kind of got a bunch down here of stuff that I've actually done. I didn't realize I put out so much. Do you know what I mean? I've kind of forgot. But yeah, new stuff. No, like Sausage Fingers has just put out volume 4, so that
Yeah,
just came out. I put out a track which I was really proud of with Oh Love.
yeah,
It was called Refuse. That's been another, tough one to sell, but we haven't got that out to the distributor yet. So that's going to be going in all the shops soon. Can
if
I
anyone
let
doesn't know what sausage fingers is, do you want to explain
it's
what it is?
yeah. So when I release sevens, I just try and make stuff that I would play myself or I would use myself or want myself, and I kind of think that's the best way of telling what's useful. When I did digital sets, I used to use acapellas over instrumentals, and I really missed that when I was doing 45. So there's some strange DJ called DJ Sausage Fingers who's from Kunming in China, and I put these records out for him, which is edits of acapellas. So you basically get like 3 acapellas on each side, and it's only the first verse and chorus because you're never going to do more than that in a mashup.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, that's what they are. They're a DJ tool, and they're for making live mashups.
yeah.
So yeah, acapellas over instrumentals or over funk tracks.
And I know Sam Tweaks is a big fan. He does a lot of sort of a cappella mashups live on Twitch.
Yeah, big up to Sam. He's a really nice guy, a really cool
Definitely,
DJ as
definitely.
well.
Um, okay, here we go.
I do have something coming out. I could
Mm,
give you an exclusive here, but
yeah, hold on a second. Let's deal with this first of all. Malong is saying, could we get some of these new releases for the Panamanian crew? I know of a guy coming soon from the UK.
yeah, I think I do as well. Criztoz, are you gonna?
I'll
Do
take
you
a
know?
few
Do you know a
records out.
guy? Do you know a guy going out?
I know someone going out. Yeah, we'll have a chat after the show. But yeah, no, we're definitely if you're happy, we'll get a little
Yeah,
care
I'll
package. We'll get a little
It's
care
quite funny. I
package.
don't know if you guys know Marlon, Asymmetrics crew, but he's a really good friend, and we actually lived together in China for a few years,
Yeah,
and we used to put on events. So when he was there, he's a really good guy with a lot of energy, and it was so nice to have someone with kind of like the same love of music with me in China for a while. and we really quick, we really quick and put on like reggae nights, dub nights. Um, this is quite a funny story, right? So me and Mael, we were like, right, let's do a dub night. So we put a lot of effort in. Maybe we got 4 turntables. This is in China somewhere where it's quite a new thing. I had my Echo unit with all the woo, 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 and all the effects to do it. We got extra bass bins in and speakers and everything. So we start and we're playing like dub and reggae. Really cool night and cool vibes. And then a Chinese guy comes up and he goes, what time's it starting then? And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, what time are you getting things going? And I'm like, no. And he goes, what is it, this musical night? I was like, yeah, it's a reggae night. Sorry, mate. Oh, okay.
Oh man.
But yeah, we enjoyed. Mile was the same as me. Like we did when we lived in China, it was really great because a lot of things we were trying to push new music out there and everything. But sorry, yeah, I forgot what you were actually asking me. Or
Um, I forgot. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Malong anyway, but yeah, so I'm obviously going out to Panama at the end of next month. So yeah, we'll talk about maybe some of those releases to get them out for the Panamanian crew. Um, okay, now we celebrated your 50th in London last year. And that was great, and I think you had a good time. So that was at the We Love 45s event in London.
yeah, that was great. Yeah.
How was that? How did you find that sort of hanging out with sort of meeting people again, like you said, like when you went to Germany, meeting new people off the internet or people you hadn't met before?
Yeah, no, I love it. Because there's a lot of people these days, you meet people online and you've got similar interests in music and it gives you a chance to actually hang out and talk.
Yeah,
It was I really enjoyed it. Hopefully, thanks a lot for organizing that, but hopefully we can do it again next year. Like yeah, we got to meet a lot of people, play records. I brought my daughter up. It was really nice because it was kid friendly.
yeah,
We've got a really good crew from Southampton, the 45 Soul crew, like Mark and Disco Dan. They came up with us as well, which
yeah,
was
yeah,
really great as well. Big shout to them. Yeah, and I got to meet all those guys, Sam Tweaks, everyone like that was there. Too many people, and really good fun night. So yeah, Criztoz, thank you very much. I hope more people like that will happen.
yeah. Well, I hope we do. Yeah, I got Jake Detonator in the chat as well. He was there as well.
Yeah, it was nice to meet him. He's a
Uh,
very
uh,
talented guy as well. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he gave him the 45 of his release, the Doom one, and I think I saw on Dinks Records that is coming out very soon. So it's nice to have that record that early because it's a great record.
I think that's
Um,
going to be a really popular one. Yeah, and the
yeah,
artwork, everything, the whole package looks really good.
yeah, and he's been heavily involved doing the artwork for DJ Bacon in Australia as well. So there's lots
Yeah.
of amazing sort of artworks from there, and been playing those. Okay, final thing, I think we might do a part two, or get you back on and talk about some other stuff in the future. But tell us about Southampton, because obviously I've met you in Southampton a couple of times at Overdraft Records and obviously Soul 45. What's the scene like down there for you?
Yeah, it's obviously I've lived abroad like over half of my life, so
Yeah,
I kind of I came back only about 3 or 4 years ago or something, I think. Do you know what I mean? So most of my time um was abroad. I obviously grew up in Southampton, and then was the time when everyone was DJing. We had all the free parties, the rave scene, the hip hop scene, and all that. So I've kind of come back, and I've not really been a part of building the scene here or anything. Do you know what I mean? I've come back at a later date. I got to give a big shout out to Mark James because he does an amazing job, and I
yeah,
think without him, there wouldn't be as much going on. But there's some really nice places and parties going on, mostly to do with Mark, to be honest. But you got
yeah,
Overdraft and Shirley. They've just opened a new bar in the center of town as well. Mark's bar, it's not his bar, but he has a record shop in the bar as well, which is really nice. You can go in and go dig in. He does a record store day event, and quite regularly he get
yeah.
down really good DJs and vinyl DJs. So yeah, they're doing quite a bit. Yeah.
It's a great scene. It's a great shop, and I think I was reading on the Overdraft's label. It's the shop that's opened the latest, the record shop that's opened the latest in the UK. Because I think it's open till like 10:30 weekdays and then 11:30. So it's, I think, the only place you can go, and if you want, dig like at night while you're having a
Yeah.
beer and while you're having a taco or something. You know,
Quite
it's
quite dangerous, really, isn't it?
well, yeah,
Drinking and digging. Yeah.
drinking and digging. Yeah, yeah, it is always
I'm,
dangerous.
I'm sorry. I've just realised that like I should have clicked on comments because there's loads of comments coming down the side.
Oh, that's fine. There you go.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is Jake DSK says that the scratches on his latest release are from your DSK Breaks 7.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So, oh, actually, have we got time to quickly show some of the records?
Yeah, of
How
course.
how
Yeah,
are
of
we doing
course.
for time?
Yeah,
And
go for it.
also, with Jake, I got to give a big shout out to Kev from Dinked because, like I said, on my first release on 7 was from Kev from Dinked, and then I eventually started doing the edits and doing stuff myself. But Kev has helped me pretty much on every release, and if you know Kev, you know he's a really cool guy. But he is
Yeah.
up for, he's always helping people, and he's done a lot for the 7-inch scene. So I don't know if Kev's listening, but yeah, I owe a lot to Kev from Dinked. He's a really cool guy. So shout out
Yeah.
to Kev.
He's a lovely guy. I met him at the Coco gig in April for the first time. But yeah, I've been buying records off him for a little while, even before
Yeah.
Twitch and even before that. You know, when I was doing the original 45ers. But yeah, yeah. Let's see some records.
Right. Like I say, I forgot how much I've done.
Hold on. Let me just move this, and then we'll solo
This
you out. There you go.
so this was these are scratch records, which are skipless
I
breaks. So
love that
we did
record.
yeah, this is DJ Rasp. Big shout out to DJ Rasp. That's Hadouken breaks. I did this with a club in China called The Hang. There's a
Yep.
Chinese producer on the B side which did really dark, heavy beats, and it's beautiful red, clear, and black splattered vinyl. I did skipless scratches on the other side. Yeah, this was
Oh, what's that one? I haven't seen that one before.
metric breaks. So we did 2 presses. We did a see-through with the splatter and a blue and white one. That did really well. That was another scratch 7-inch. This is another scratch 7 I did with Matt Man. Do you know Matt Man? Amazing
Yeah.
DJ.
Yeah.
DJ Menace, and also Concept from New Zealand and Ireland. That's another skipless with really cool artwork from Ricky also. This was the first scratch record I did, which did amazing. Ricky also did the artwork for this as well. Big thanks to Rick. Crazy artwork. We did T-shirts and everything with them.
That's so cool.
That was Falcon Claw, so that was a friend.
Right. Pause here because there's a story behind that release, isn't there? In terms of you finding the track. So tell us about that, because I know it, but in case anyone doesn't know the story behind that record.
Yeah, so basically the A side is a really good friend from China that he owned a bar and restaurant we used to hang out at. One time I was round his house. Sadly, his dad had passed away and they'd kind of been estranged for a while, and he went back to collect stuff from his dad passing away that was left, and he had a load of tapes, and this track, Falcon Claw, was a track that his dad had done for a kung fu movie, and it never got released. So it had like a breakbeat on it, and it's kind of like 70s psych, and yeah, it was like the only remaining copy of it for a movie that never came out. So I said to my friend as a tribute, he was such a good friend and a good guy, that we'd put it out to kind of honor his dad. So
It's amazing. And it's amazing that all these years later, there is a physical piece of history that you can hold in your hand and tell that story.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then obviously we got all the edits. I mean, people
Yep.
probably know about them. We're up to volume 7 now. I put out Ancient Artifacts by Il Boogs in Brighton and
Yep.
Shelley Mack.
Yeah, that's great.
That was a good one. Oh, this is a one.
Here's Kev. You can say what you said earlier about
Oh,
Kev.
Kev, I just give you a big shout out. So yeah, I was just saying thanks to Kev from Dink. That's pretty much helped me out on every release I've done. So thank you, Kev. I appreciate all your help all the time. This was a record that got released in Greece. Tom's Tie. Have you heard this one?
I haven't seen or heard that one actually.
It's a little bit. Nicodemus is on the other side with an Indian track.
Interesting.
So this is a really funny story. Is I went to do an event in Singapore My mate Tom, big shout out, Tom Shellsuit. He collected breaks and he had Thai and Malay records. He had a really big, crazy collection. So he said, I stayed around his house for a week and he said, help yourself to my 7 inches.
Right.
If you want to sample anything, do it. So I just spent a day digging all his Thai, Malay, and Singaporean records, made that track. I was staying on his couch. And then
Amazing.
made the track and someone heard it. And it was the guys from Greece that run Beats and Culture and they put the record out in Greece. So, yeah.
Yeah, because that's another great label, isn't it? They've got lots of
Oh,
good stuff on that
those
label.
guys, I got to meet him when we were cutting Sausage Fingers. He happened to be in London, so we ended up meeting up and brought him along to the cutting session and everything. Really cool guys.
Amazing, amazing. What else you got?
Sausage Fingers, I mean, everyone knows these, right?
Yeah,
These are the
yeah.
acapella tools.
Yeah.
This is the latest one with Oh Love, and it's also got a guy that I work with in China on tracks from Tahiti. So one side is like hip hop, breakbeat, soul, and the other side is a reggae track from a guy from Tahiti, which
I need to
came
flip
out
that
really
record
nice.
over because I think I've only played the other side. I didn't realise there's like a reggae side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
came out
Flip the
really
records
nice.
over, kids.
B-side wins again, eh?
Yeah, B-side for the win. Yeah.
Like I say, I didn't even find all the stuff I'd put out. This is just what I found. This one Kev put out on Dinked, which is Lost Soul Crew. It was a band that we had in China, so it's got a really nice drum break on it, and the instrumental version is great. Angela, the singer, lives in Berlin now, so she came along. I got to meet her at Mark Hype's party as well. It's another edit. Oh, this one. So this was the Chinese reggae.
Yeah, I love that.
So I lived in a place called Kunming in China, and their music, they have a lot of folk music, and reggae is kind of taken off there because it's got they can put their traditional music to kind of reggae rhythms, and it kind of fits. Nick
Yeah.
Manasar, they ended up getting a budget to make an album. They've got quite big now, and we ended up getting reggae legend Nick Manasar to mix it. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, this one
I
did
love it.
really well. That's the one we were on about from Cambodia. So big up
Again, I
my
love that
Cambodian
song.
friends.
I need to dig it out again. I was for one point I was playing it almost every stream I was doing. I know Sideshow Mall maybe got a little bit fed up with it eventually, but
So Dub Addiction, the guy
yeah,
Jan from Dub Addiction is now moved back to Berlin, and when I went to Mark Oates' 50th, I hung out with him for the day. So he's back producing again now.
nice.
The rest of the band, they're from all over the place. There was one guy from Nigeria, one guy, the Khmer MC. He ended up getting exiled into Denmark, and he couldn't go back to Cambodia because he spoke against the government there. So
Right.
yeah, there's quite deep meanings to that song.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the label of this, but I've done the originals labels that do the breaks on one
That's right.
side.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some.
So
You've
I've
done
done
a
a
couple
cut.
of those, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, done a couple. I was really happy with the Get Up and Dance one because I took the version with the break that you could only get on the 12. It never come out on the 7, and the way I edited it, do you know what I mean? It meant you could still play it, but then also get to the break. So I really thought about that one a long time when I did that. But yeah, that's kind of it, mate. I mean, there's a few more, but I couldn't find them. There's the
Nice one.
Lamine. Do you remember Lamine? Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, so much good stuff. What are you using to produce now? Because I've seen obviously, and I think we've had a chat about.
There it is. If anyone got that one, that was a good one as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kev
That's
put this out on Dinked. I was really happy with that.
Yeah. What are you using to produce now? Because I've seen you with, I think, is it an MPC one or an MPC Live that you've got?
Yeah, I've got I now I do a lot of stuff on Logic. So when I'm at home, I do stuff on Logic, but I've got an MPC one because it's portable and I've got a battery backup pack with it. So I just take that. Like my daughter is mad on skating and I have to drive her everywhere. So
Right.
I spend a lot of time sat in skate parks whilst my daughter is skateboarding. So what I do now is I take my MPC and I just sit in the corner. And the MPC one, it's great. I use a battery pack and then I'll knock up beats on that and I bring it back and put it into Logic and then kind of
Right.
do more of the arrangements and the editing and stuff. And I've used Ableton as well. I really like Ableton, so I'd say Ableton, Logic, and an MPC. It's like the best three things, really.
Yeah, I've got an old MPC 1000 up there which I used to
Yeah,
use.
I had that in China. I loved it. That was
Yeah.
that the size of it and everything. I really liked the M. Did you get the JJ
I think that's where I
OS?
sort of. I think that didn't come out until after I sort of stopped using. I've still got it somewhere, but I'm now on an SP404 Mark II, which at the moment I'm just using to sample, and then I'll have a go at chopping up some beats and stuff. But I've just learned. I was watching DJ Ketch yesterday put a video up about sampling using one of the effects on the mixer on the echo effect, so you can
Right.
like sample like a 4 bar, an 8 bar, 16 bar, whatever. So yeah, so going to get creative with that. So that should be
So
quite a lot of fun.
one of the highlights of not, I wouldn't say really my career, do you know what I mean? But of me doing stuff is I got to support Madlib in China. He came out and did
Oh wow.
a couple of gigs. So my mate who was a promoter, he said, Nick, would you come and like support Madlib? And I was like, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, don't even have to ask. He's like, what do you want payment and that? I was like, mate, just get me out there. Like, I'll just do it to support you. And like, such a big fan. So anyway, he came out with, is it Egon? You know, the guy that plays
Egon,
breaks?
Stones Throw.
Oh, yeah, he was incredible. He was kind of like over everyone's head at that time. But anyway, I got to hang out with Madlib, which was kind of surreal. And at one point, we did a sound check, and no one else was in the building, right? And we had the sound system up, and he uses CDs, so he's recorded a lot of his breaks and stuff. Probably now he's using Serato, but this is quite a while ago. So he goes, "Oh, have you got any CDs?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got like this B-boy break mix CD that I've done. That's all I've got." I goes, "I don't know if you want to use that." He went, "Yeah," and he stuck it in the machine and using cue points and just using a DJM 900 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He just zoned out and he just started making beats and like just I totally got in his zone, right? And I made the CD that he was using, and I was like, how the hell is he doing what he's doing? Like, I don't even understand how he's done that from my CD. And he just flicked it on, right? And there was one drum break, and he just cut it up, used all these weird effects, and then it was incredible seeing it. Like, the guy is a genius, and I started scratching because I had the decks up, and I was thinking, oh, he won't mind. And then basically we were just both zoned out, and for about quarter of an hour, I just jammed with Madlib,
Amazing.
making beats from my own CD. And the maddest thing is, it never got recorded, and no one else was in
Oh,
that room. But it's like the thing that I'll ever, you know what I mean? Just the
yeah.
thing that I remember.
So he was using what, like a CDJ to like
Yeah, he
chop it
had
up, and then and then the mixer, the sort of Pioneer 900.
yeah. So he was using like the bit crushing effect, and he was using like the cue points to hit the snares and the beats, and just really destroying everything. Like like getting the pitch stretch on the CDJ and just pulling the speed right down to totally mess up the sounds. And like I was just stood there going like, and he must be a bit of an addict. Do you know what I mean? One of those people that just give him something and he's just gonna see how he can make beats and destroy it on the equipment. But to watch him and just jam with him was like definitely the highlight of anything I've ever done.
Amazing, amazing. And look where music took you. You know, I bet in a million years you didn't think you'd be in that position.
No, yeah, it's quite a
Yeah,
mad journey, I suppose. Yeah,
yeah, amazing. Right, let's leave it there. I don't think we can top that story. That is a great story.
there's a
I'm
good
just going to
point to
find.
change. Eh?
I'm just going to see who's live and who we're going to raid to. But if anyone's, obviously there's the Bandcamp that they can pick up sort of releases that you've got at the moment. But what's the next thing, next gig, or the next sort of release or anything that you've got coming up?
The next one, which I suppose I'll let out of the hat, is DJ Agent 86. I don't know if anyone knows the guy from. I think he's from Melbourne. Yeah, um,
Yeah.
really good edit from him. We'll get that put out soon, and that's
And is
all
that
I'll
going to be
say for now. It's a banger.
is
Like
that going to be a
it's really
45 or is that
nice.
going to be a?
It will be a 45. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, we definitely
And then
need to
gigs,
sort of.
I haven't really got anything like. The thing is now I've got like a day job. I spent like 20, 30. 20 years as a professional DJ and all that. And then I came back to England to get my daughter through school and decided to get a day job, which is a bit safer for the family. So gigs, I'm not kind of hanging out in bars and clubs as much as I used to. So
Yeah, it's a
not
different
as many gigs,
situation.
you know.
Actually, there is one thing we're going to talk about because obviously you've talked about making beats on your sort of portable MPC, but your daughter, I think it was 2 years ago, to Beat Geek, and
Oh
then did a
yeah, was
beat
you at that one?
competition. Yeah, and then she won a competition, didn't she? I mean, how proud was that? Her winning
Yeah,
something
it
like
was
that.
amazing. So we went to see the Novation Beat Geek at Leek Street. Is a really good event. If you're there, go. But
Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
great.
they had everyone to get up on a new machine they'd bought out and to have a go. So I went up and had a go, and someone else did who was a producer. And then my daughter was like, "Dad, how old was she then? 13?" She's like, "Oh, can I go out and have a go?" And I went, "Yeah." So she got up there and she's making beats, and I'm going, "Turn the snare down, turn the kick drum up." Giving her little hints, and she done it, and she made a really good beat, got really into it, and she ended up winning. Yeah, and she won a load of production gear.
Amazing.
But the mad thing is, like, as much as I wanted her to get into music and that, skateboarding is her thing, and
Yeah,
it I wanted her to DJ and do production because I thought I can get her to jump to my position with my knowledge, but you can't force kids, and I'm really happy for her. But she's mad at skating, and she's really progressed and got really good. So really happy for her doing that.
that's great. And she might come back to the music at some point. You just never know, do you? Music.
Yeah, she's performing. She does shows and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She will do. Right, cool. I'm going to set the raid. We're going to go and
right, let me
see.
give one last thing. Is if I do a radio show on Mixcloud for Crimmy Radio every month.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
on the 24th of every month. I think it's 7:30, 8:30 UK time, but it's played back on Mixcloud. So if you want to hear, it's all like big mixture of, it's all 7 inches vinyl breaks and stuff. So please, if you got time, yeah, check out my Mixcloud mixes.
Yeah, I need another mix for you from for 45 day
Yeah, I owe a lot.
2024.
I owe a lot of people mixes, which I'm going to do. Criztoz, Marlong, I haven't forgotten you. I'll do your mix, and
I know. I'm
I
just
will
as
get
bad.
round to them all.
I know. I'm just as bad. I've got a mix to do, and I've got a few more weeks to try and do it. But anyway,
Yeah, and
it's
if
been
anyone,
fantastic.
if
Yeah, go
there's
on.
gigs about, feel free to hit me up as well. So
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you know.
I love meeting people, grabbing a
Definitely,
bag, and playing some stuff. So yeah,
definitely.
thank you very much, Criztoz. Thanks for the
No worries.
invite.
If you hang on there, we'll just send the stream away. But let's go from there. And yeah, we're going to do a part two at some point, I think. Um, right.
Yeah, I've got I've got